Hey everyone, welcome to MBA and Beyond. Hey Vinita, nice to see you. You're on mute. You'll have to unmute yourself. Mic testing. We'll start in another minute. Do you want to try testing?
Very good too. Nice to see you.
Yeah, same here. We're just waiting for the other speaker. Meanwhile, you guys, I'm going to do a little introduction of our speakers in a bit. But it will be nice to hear where are you all from, what GMAT scores you have, what kind of schools are you looking at, what rounds you're looking at. And feel free to drop in your questions at any point in time in the chat. We are going to take them up towards the end, and if we can, and we may also address those questions as we go through the session. I'm Paridhi, co-founder of MBA and Beyond. We have two amazing speakers with us tonight. Today afternoon, wherever you guys are from. Let's do a little introduction to the agenda that we're going to be touching upon today. So we're going to be talking about what's a strong profile according to adcoms if applying in round 2, because right now, most of you who are sitting here, we clearly know that you're struggling between the thought round 1, round 2, whether round 2 is really going to deteriorate my chances of making it through to some of the top schools. So we're going to answer all those questions for you. How to pick the right schools? When should you start your applications for round 2? What's the sense of urgency for round 2? And we're going to talk about it a little more in detail. Vinita is going to share her experience and, of course, understanding of the business schools. She's one of the best admissions consultant out there. We are going to talk about 3 steps to craft an admit winning application for round 2, how your resume reinforces your essay and overall application, how to apply for scholarships. Yes, it's a possibility to get scholarships even if you're considering round 2. So we'll talk in a little more detail there. What aspects of your applications will demand most of your attention, factors to consider before applying for any MBA rounds. Now, I take this opportunity to introduce Dr. Vinita. Dr. Vinita is here with us, the one in pink shirt that you see. Lovely to see you, Vinita, here. Dr. Vinita has started her journey of MBA admissions consulting. She started it in 2008. She has been in education industry for more than 3 decades with qualitative experience of 14 plus years in admissions consulting. Working as an admissions head with the Gmat Training Institute for past 3 years, and as an independent consultant since 2011, she has helped hundreds of students get invites and admits from top business schools. Her academic qualification includes doctorate in English literature, a degree in mass communication, and a certificate course in entrepreneurship from IIM. Her quest to go beyond time, and again, has facilitated her voyage to contribute more towards assessing narratives of MBA aspirants within a wide range of disciplines. Another speaker, and really lovely to see you there, Tetlanyo. So amazing that you've joined us today, and this is going to be a very interesting session with her. Tetlanyo is a product marketing manager who recently returned to Meta after graduating with an MBA from INSEAD in July 2022. She works on Meta's Reality Labs team, focusing on metaverse products and developer community. Tetlanyo is passionate about helping people realize their potential and achieve their goals. Throughout her career, she has mentored colleagues as well as students and professionals interested in breaking into the tech industry after going through admissions consulting, like admissions process herself in 2020. She has also started coaching MBA applicants to get where they really want to get and help her with her own experience, what it really takes to get into some of the top schools. Welcome to the Coffee with MBA and Beyond, both of you, and the stage is all yours.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paridhi. Cool. Well, welcome everyone. I'm so pleased to be with you all today, and I'm looking forward to interacting with you all and answering whatever questions you might have with regards to applying in round 2, which is just around the corner. Today, I'm going to be the one taking you through what admission committees are looking for in candidates. I'll then take you through how to select schools to apply to, and then how to craft an admit-worthy application. Finally, I will take you through what you need to do to start working on your application today. So before I start, I just want to say that the first thing to understand when it comes to business schools is that their brand is everything. And the way that they build their brand is by paying particular attention to who comes into their programs. So this is because business schools obviously are looking for people who are very intelligent, people who are good team players, people that are future leaders and that are going to be highly successful in whatever endeavors that they pursue, because ultimately this is going to reflect very well on them. So when someone from an MBA admissions committee is looking at your application, they're going to have a gut feel based on your background, so things such as your industry, your GPA, your Gmat score, etc. So when you're writing your application, you need to put yourself in their shoes and be aware of any potential issues, such as the fact that your Gmat score is low, or perhaps you study something that was less quantitative in nature. And if your profile doesn't fit the conventional expectations of whatever school you're applying to, then you need to really make sure that you counter those weaknesses in your application. So one of the first checks that they'll make is the academic one. So in other words, your GMAT, your GRE, and your GPA. So on the one hand, getting a 790 on the GMAT won't guarantee that you'll be admitted into business school, but it's also important to be aware that a low GPA or low GMAT or GRE score will give an admission committee pause, because it might be indicative of the fact that you wouldn't be comfortable in the classes. In general, of course, they're going to give full consideration to your GPA and your GMAT. So neither of those scores is going to be able to predict acceptance. And I'm sure you've heard many people say that they consider your application as a whole, and that's because it's very true. And a factor as like, besides the GMAT and GPA that really matters as well is your EQ, or your emotional intelligence. So once you've proven that you'll be able to do well in the courses, then what's going to separate you from other candidates is your EQ, as well as your employability, your leadership, and your general fit for the school. So I'll just start with the EQ bit. So another way to put this is interpersonal skills. So potential red flags that they might consider, or certain factors that they might consider a red flag, is if you have limited international exposure. Another one might be if you've jumped around from company to company and you haven't really stayed longer than 6 months in a lot of your jobs. And then another one might be that you haven't managed to get promoted. So those might be potential red flags that you need to be conscious of, and also, help shape your story by showing that you actually are a team player and that you actually do care about other people and you're a social person. When it comes to leadership, your profile will definitely be on the weaker side if you don't have any strong examples of you taking up leadership roles in the workplace or during your undergrad. Once again, it's important to be conscious of those potential red flags and negative stereotypes so that you can counteract them with the rest of your application. So for example, your essays. So in this case, you want to show that you've done like some community service. And the good thing is, well, you're only a couple of months out. So ideally you would have started this earlier, but if you haven't, then, at least adding some community service at this point, or thinking of examples where you've been a team player on your team would be very helpful. Regarding post-MBA employability. So always remember that business schools really care about the outgoing class. So of course you have your statistics about the incoming class, like your GMAT, your GRE, etc. But another important statistic that they share is what percentage of their graduates are employed within 3 months of graduating. So your resume and your recommendations will tell the admission committee about your potential and where you've been. And then your vision statement as well will tell them where you want to go. And based on all of these elements, they will make an assessment about whether they feel you have a strong employment prospect, like following your MBA. Last but not least, of course, is the school fit. It's very important. And trust me, admission committees will be able to tell whether or not you've done deep research on their specific school. And it's important that you show them that you'd be a great fit for the class that you'll be entering and also the alumni network as a whole. So if I take INSEAD as an example, the school's tagline is the business school for the world. And that's because INSEAD places a huge emphasis on being a very international school. So some of the ways that they do that is like they've got a footprint in Europe, in Asia, the Middle East, and the US. They also only admit a maximum of 12% of the class from one country so that there isn't a dominant culture on campus. And then finally, if, in case you didn't know, INSEAD requires that students speak 3 languages. 2 of them must be fluent, and then the third must be at least a basic level. So if you're applying to INSEAD, for example, it's important that you show that you care about being globally minded and you also care about diversity. But in general, you need to show how your values align to whatever schools you're applying to. Which brings me to the next topic, which is how to pick the right schools. So if you could go to the next slide. So if it's not already obvious, researching the schools you want to apply to before you start your applications is really important. So in general, I'd recommend applying to between 5 and 8 schools, but this number really depends on multiple factors such as your profile and your motivations for getting an MBA. In any case, a good place to start would be the rankings, and there are many different rankings out there. If you just Google them, a whole bunch will like pop up. But across the board, you're going to see the same schools at the top of the list. You may or may not have heard of the M7, so that would be Harvard, Stanford, Columbia, etc. And then if you're looking at more international rankings, the top schools will also include European business schools such as INSEAD and London Business School, HSC, etc., as well as the Chinese European International Business School. People, of course, naturally want to apply to the top 10 schools, but depending on what your goal is, you could go to a lower ranked school and still achieve your career goals. It goes without saying that, of course, applying to the top 10 schools is harder to get admitted in that case. So it's important to be very realistic and also to hedge your bets. So with that in mind, it's important to compare your profile against the incoming class. As I mentioned earlier, there's the outgoing classes stats, and there's also incoming classes, Gmat, GRE, etc. And be honest with yourself when assessing your chances. When you shortlist your schools, within those schools, make sure that you have your reaches. So for example, if you feel like you have a chance of getting into Harvard and Stanford, that would be a reach school for anybody. But then also be sure to hedge your bets by including a good proportion of safety schools. This recommendation is particularly important if you have any major anomalies in your profile. For example, if you have a below average GPA, or if you have a weak Gmat or GRE, or anything else that's going to stand out to the admissions committee in a way that's not necessarily positive. Once you've shortlisted your schools, then make sure they align with your post-MBA goals and your goals for your personal growth. For instance, when it comes to career goals, you might consider how many of the students at that school went into a particular industry, because it's going to say something about, the school's brand within that industry. You might also consider where students at that school end up geographically. Is it very largely concentrated in the US, or is it all over the globe? And then, of course, if you can find information, even by reaching out to career services, you might consider what are the major companies or employers that go to that school to recruit. When it comes to your personal goals, you might also consider how the professors at that school teach and how flexible the curriculum is. So for example, at Harvard Business School, it's important to be aware that for all of their classes, including finance and strategy, they use the case method. And when it comes to their curriculum, the first year at Harvard is the same for everyone. In other words, there is no flexibility when it comes to the curriculum, at least in the first year. On the other hand, you have Chicago Booth, where the professors use a mix of different teaching methods. So from the case method to normal lecture style and problem sets, for instance, and also they allow students to pick their courses from day one. These are very important considerations, of course, because the MBA is going to be a huge investment of your time and money. So you want to make sure that you get the most out of it. So now I want to talk about how to craft a winning application. So steps to crafting a winning application. So for round 2 applications, I've already mentioned, it's important that you put your best foot forward because there are fewer spots up for grabs, as some have already been taken up by round 1 applicants. And to give yourself the best chance, your application needs to show that you'd be able to cut it at the school. This, of course, is largely going to be reflected in your academic record and your quantitative ability. So if you're not happy with your current GMAT or GRE score, then there is a bit of time to correct that. But just remember that this is one aspect of your application, and a big mistake that I see a lot of people making is putting all the eggs in that basket or spending a huge amount of time. And I know Dr. Vanita is going to be talking about how much time to spend on different elements of the application. I just want to emphasize that it is very important not to overemphasize this aspect because the other parts of your application are also hugely important. But once you've cleared the hurdle of academics, you need to spend a lot of time doing some introspective work. And that's because what's going to make you stand out from other applicants is the way that you tell the story of you. So this begins with uncovering what makes you unique and special, and including what your intrinsic values are, what your distinctive qualities are, and what are some of the most compelling stories you have to share from your past. So this introspection piece takes a bit of time, and it is worth investing in because it's going to be the foundation that you build on when it comes to everything else, including your career game plan. Like, what do you really want to get out of your career, the long-term vision to the short-term and medium goals. It also helps you answer the question of why MBA, which is something that you need to answer, even if it's not asked directly in your application. And it's certainly something that's going to come up in the interviews. It'll also help you write a more well-rounded story that sets you apart from other candidates. And other thing to bear in mind is that it's going to help you coach your recommenders, which is also very important. You don't just like say, oh, write me a recommendation letter. You have to coach your recommenders so that they are helping you to tell a more compelling and rounded story. So I've also put together a rough timeline of how you might go about your application.
Okay, Tatlania, I'd like to chime in for a few points that you just touched upon, because I've spoken to some of the applicants who are in the session today, and their biggest concern is that I'm yet to take my GMAT, or they're reattempting the GMAT, and it's like, let's say in a month or 2 months. So I'd like to take this opportunity, and I hope T has also just emphasized on the fact it's just a 3-digit score, but that's not what's just going to get you into a top school. Even if you end up getting a 770 or north of 740, you need to project yourself as a future global business leader. And that's something that requires real imagination and with the right evidences and a lot of support for you to project yourself, that business schools want to believe your story. You want them to believe your story. So I cannot lay enough emphasis on the value that you should give to the introspection of your own story before you put it out there. What's hurting sometimes when I listen to applicant story is, Tetliano, that GMAT took like 6 months and application needed to be done in like a month's time, 5 of them. This is not how it works. So yeah, I just wanted to chime in there and completely agree with you that much effort needs to go there as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. So you could have a score of 790, for example, and then not have the most compelling stories, and then someone with the lowest score shows how they've built self-awareness, and like they're very aware of what they want to do in their careers, and they've told a compelling story, and they might get in over you. So that's one of the biggest mistakes I see happening.
Absolutely. So we have a question around timelines, and Tetlanio is going to touch upon that. So back to you.
Yes, so really, if you're considering applying in round 2, then I'm very happy to see that you're in this webinar because there is still time. But as Paridi has mentioned, it does take a while to craft your application, and particularly if you're applying to multiple different schools. So like this month, you have like about 4 months. I mean, with INSEAD, for instance, round 2 is actually in November, but for the most part, and especially with the American schools, the application deadlines would be early January. So this month, first of all, decide if business school is for you. If you are still on the fence about it, just understand that the next few months are going to be largely dedicated to your application. So you need to decide now whether you want to go through and make that commitment. The other point I'd like to make is you need to study if you haven't already taken the GMAT. Otherwise, take the GMAT and retake it, not just GMAT, but GRE as well. So if you, like, I'm sure you've all heard that if you are more of a poet, or if you're someone who is better at languages or the qualitative subjects, then you might want to consider GRE, especially as they accepted by a lot of schools these days. The slide has moved, so I can't really see it. Okay, then of course, select your schools. I've already spoken about that. You first want to do some research, some high-level research, and once you've shortlisted your schools, you want to do much deeper research. And then also, this is the time that you would want to get a consultant on board, because it's important that you come up with a game plan for your applications. So even before you start the introspection work, just coming up with an overall plan. And then of course, the consultant will help you with the rest of the journey. Then, and you need to be doing your self-discovery, as I mentioned. So for instance, with myself, when I work with other people, I have like certain exercises that they do to uncover some of their best stories and what their values are. And then they, coming up with the career game plan. So that starts with your long-term vision for your career, then your medium-term goals, and then what are some of the short-term tactics that you're actually taking, that you're actually making now. And then, of course, school research. Then when there are 2 months left, that's when it's time to like inform your recommenders. The reason I wouldn't start with recommenders is, as I mentioned, you want to tell an overall story. So you want your recommendation to, on the one hand, show a different side of yourself, perhaps, but also reflect what you've already said. Then, and you also want to coach your recommender. So there's definitely some advice that I like to give people I work with when it comes to, how to best coach their recommenders to make sure that they get the most out of those recommendation letters. And then of course, you need to write your essays and finalize your resume, which honestly takes much longer than you would think, because even after you've written your essay, sometimes it's important to take a step back for a week and then come back to it. I mean, not to overanalyze it, but I changed my essays a couple of times. I was happy with them when I wrote them, but then I'd come back and I felt like I would improve them. And then also bear in mind, of course, that different schools have different prompts. So you can't just keep recycling the same essay. That's going to actually, of course, some elements of the essay might be in the same, in multiple different applications, but again, you need to show school fit. So it also needs to be tailor crafted for your essay, and you can't just try to fit it into any type of prompt. And then finally, of course, you dot your T's. You dot your I's, you cross your T's, you make sure that there's no spelling errors, etc., and you submit your applications. So I don't know if I should answer questions now, or should we just continue and then answer questions at the end?
So as we're going, Vinita and I are already tackling some of them. Okay. Maybe we will tackle, there are a few which require a little more discussion, but let me just go through it quickly while we're at it. Vinita has already tackled. Yeah, there's none that we've missed so far. So we're working. Okay. As you go. All right, back to you.
Hi, everybody. It's so good to be on this platform, interacting with all the MBA aspirants. So you've already reached a level, where you are among the top ones. So just consider that and work with full enthusiasm, I would say. So my topics are today how your resume enforces your essays and overall application. Then the next, I will be speaking about scholarships, how to apply for scholarships. Third will be what aspects will demand most of your attention. And then I'll be touching upon the factors to consider before applying for any MBA round. Now, since we are talking about round 2, so most of the things remain the same, but then, few aspirants who've not been able to apply in round 1 because of certain reasons, you must apply when you know that this is the best you can give. So somebody is not able to apply and then you want to go ahead. Round 2 is equally good. So I will start with my first slide on how your resume enforces your essays and overall application. So resume, I would just like to tell you 3 most important sections because it's very important to know exactly what resume is. So your academic, your professional and additional sections where in additional sections you may have personal details plus achievements. So basically these 3 sections. Now it's a complete story of your life, no? Let the best come on top. If you have less work experience, then obviously academic will take a little more importance. And if you have work experience of, let's say, 4 or 5 or 6 years, and you've done exponentially well, so anything, which is worth mentioning, so that comes on top. And who you are professionally and personally. So when you talk about who you are personally and professionally, obviously you're talking about your qualities, right? So qualities will come in resume also, and will obviously come in essays, you in the recommendation also for whatever you've written in the essay. So obviously your resume will reinforce your essays and your overall application. Now, in the resume only, you also talk about volunteer experience, community service, passion, interest, extracurricular. See, whatever you have actually done in your life, it is not necessary that if you haven't done any community service, it's not necessary to talk about that. It's good. But if you haven't done anything, so you can't just start a month before or 2 months before, and then you can just boast about that. That doesn't work. So let something bear with you for quite some time. Now, is this not all about leadership? So it's just, I would say, mini picture of your qualities as who you are as a professional and who you are as a person. So obviously, resume is gateway to your essays, recommendations, and interviews. So it focuses on demonstrated business leadership, reflecting in academics, you will talk about intellectual aptitude, research, any awards that you've got, any recognition of your work, which is there, and Gmat score also, if you've got 760 or 770 Gmat score, worth mentioning. Then obviously show impact in your professional experience that you will talk about. You will show impact, your increased responsibilities, out of the turn promotions, your leadership potential, the personality traits that you have, and obviously vision, integrity, trustworthiness, dependability. Talk about a whole lot of qualities that you possess. So it's very important to first analyze yourself, see yourself, introspect, and see what you have done. Maybe something in your childhood also you would have done, and that is just carrying on with you. So very, very important to understand what are your leadership qualities and how are you going to present that. So it's a mini picture. Resume is a mini picture of your leadership qualities, and that's how resume reinforces your essays and overall application. So can we move to the next slide? The next slide is how to apply for scholarships. See, scholarships is very, very important. However, whenever I have dealt with so many students, they don't really want to talk about scholarship initially when they're writing their essays and managing their recommendations and maybe appearing for Gmat and things like that. So I always tell them that work for scholarship also should start with your work for selecting the right business school. No, because scholarship will depend upon which school are you applying to and how many scholarships are there, what kind of scholarships are there. So it becomes very easy for you to identify which scholarships suit you well. So applying for scholarships means you should be very much aware of what it is all about. So I would say start search for right school and scholarship simultaneously. Now, scholarships could be business school specific, government scholarships, external funding organization, companies and private organizations, charitable businesses. You know, it's really worth just checking what kind of scholarships are there. And you will be amazed and overwhelmed to see how many scholarships are there.
I think, okay. We lost you for a bit, Vinita, but you can go back.
Am I audible now?
Yes, perfectly fine.
Yeah. So do I need to repeat that the scholarships are business school specific, government scholarships, external funding organization, companies and private organizations, charitable businesses? I just said that you will be amazed. It's really, really overwhelming to see people are ready to give you money. Now it's entirely up to you whether you want to take it or you don't want to take it, you know. So just try and make an attempt. Try to put in all your efforts to see what scholarships are available. Then, of course, you know, scholarships are not given just like that. You need to stand in the merit. So your GP, your essays are required for scholarship also. You need to talk about yourself. Again, you know, whatever goes in the essays, your statement of purpose also has to be mentioned if they ask for scholarship essay. So obviously your career vision and why do you need scholarship, policy, procedure. Deadlines are very, very important. You must know what are the deadlines for scholarship. There's so many good scholarships where the deadlines are quite before the deadlines of the schools. So be aware and then apply. So if I have to talk about scholarships, what kind of scholarships are there? Types and usage of scholarships. So it is merit-based and need-based. So merit-based, obviously excellence in academics and your professional performance, career goals, and your participation in other activities. Everything matters. Individual profile. So there are no hard and fast rules, no rules, regulations as such. It's important to see where you stand. Merit, basically a relative competition. Then need-based, obviously, if you have financial requirement, then you need to show your financial status also, your bank statements, your income tax returns. So all those you should be aware of. So when we talk about usage of scholarships, so it's not that the money is given and you use it the way you want to use it. It's not like that. So sometimes full or partial scholarships are there. And then, you know, some scholarships are only for your educational expenses, some are for visa charges, travel costs, insurance, things like that, but college specific. So it's important to take a look at what exactly the school is offering you. Then some scholarships are given in installments. Sometimes you get a whole lot of money just like that, you know, lump sum, but you must be deserving. So it's important to see what kind of scholarships are there, and country or origin specific also, student from a special background or subject based, or if you've done extremely well, you know, so need to check it. Now, if I just, you know, talk about INSEAD scholarships, that Lanio will also support me, I think, on that. For 2022, there were 100 plus scholarships available, and 66.1 million scholarship funds were allocated to class of 2022, and 19.9K euros average scholarship amount, which if I talk in Indian currency, so it will be somewhere around more than 15 lakhs, you know, 15,85,461 to be precise. So see the amount of money, and then there are different kinds of scholarships for women, for leadership, for merit, for financial. Complete research on that, very important. the more aware you are, better will be your decision. It's as simple as that. So can we move to the next slide? I think I have just clarified what all the more you are aware, the better you will be able to apply. The next is factors. What aspects of your application will demand most of your attention? Very interesting. Now, believe me, each and every factor is important, right? So you cannot do that you give importance to one and you are not giving importance to another thing. Believe me, there are people who are giving importance to each and everything, even to an extent where they make sure that there's not even a small little spot on their glasses if they're wearing their glasses. People have been rejected for that. So each and every aspect of your MBA application is important. Just be passionate about everything, I want to say. But if we need to take a look at it, test score, whether it is GMAT, GRE, IELTS, TOEFL, or any other standardized test score. Now, somebody just asked a question, which is important, GMAT or GRE. So both are given equal importance. So no school is going to give you less importance because you've taken GRE and you've not taken GMAT. But it's all school specific. So you must look at with GMAT. Any other thing is associated. Sometimes some scholarships are associated with GMAT. Sometimes there are a few things which they say if you've taken GMAT, but you are not actually. Your profile will not be decided on the factor that you've taken GMAT and you've taken GRE. So both are given equal importance. And then I'll move to the selection of the right business school. Is like this is a life partner that you are choosing, because this kind of a partner is going to overhaul your complete personality. So it's going to open doors which you probably wouldn't have imagined, right? So it's important to match your vision. You should be clear about why do you want to do an MBA. So your vision should match the curriculum, especially the electives. Then the clubs are there. Clubs is such a beautiful thing, educational or otherwise related to your activities. Because if you start a club, let's say if there are any veterans, because I was just handling a few veterans recently. So if somebody starts his or her own club, then you have a chance of meeting people who are sitting at the higher level, the CEOs of the companies or MDs of the companies, or people who are sitting at that top level taking decisions. See the kind of exposure that you are getting. This is also improving your networking to an extent where it will help you so much with so many aspects while in the business school and afterwards also. So this aspect is very, very important. Not many students give it so much of importance. So that's why I'm just highlighting this. Then faculty, of course, alumni and current students. Current students will give you insight of exactly what is happening. Connect with them. Connect with alumni, connect with faculty also. They're all ready to help you, They are sitting over there just ready to receive the right applicants. Because that's how you will carry their brand forward. So it's very, very very interesting, to get into the depth, the real gold, I would say. So current students will give you insight, and alumni probably will promote the schools, promote the business schools. So that's the difference. And obviously, they will have their loyalty towards the business school. And then when I talk about essay, recommendation, and interview, so the content of the recommendation, it's like making a story on yourself. And whether you make a commercial movie or you make a documentary depends entirely upon you. But let me tell you, there is nothing wrong in making a commercial, and there is nothing wrong in making a documentary film. Because ultimately, it's talking about your personal circumstances. Who is who is an extrovert and who likes to meet people, and who likes all attention, would make a commercial movie. of his complete profile, and another one will make a documentary. But both of them have an equal chance of getting to the top where they select you. Then also when we talk about recommendation, so who is your recommender? Very important to decide who is your recommender. So it's an important aspect of your application. If you're not able to decide the right recommendation, if you're not able to take the right recommendation to support you, he may not give you an excellent recommendation. And believe me, there are a number of people sitting over there who are making sure that they get an excellent recommendation. So very important, very important. People say, I sometimes deal with students who say, why should I pay attention to recommendations? Somebody else is writing it, but it's your journey. So it's important to, look at it. Then your overall personality is conveyed in the interview. Interview is like just face-to-face sitting, and they are looking at your communication skills. They are looking at your presence of mind and whether you're able to understand the question. So how you react to a situation, how you take decisions. Interview these days, so many video essays are there. So video essays you submit for Oxford also, you submit your essays, and there is video assessment. Video assessment exposes everything about you. If you're not able to convey what you've written in your main essay, your story is finished, So it's very, very important to look at each and every aspect. And so I've just mentioned test score, selection of the right schools, essays, recommendations, and interviews. That's how you make your complete story. So I wish you all the best for making an excellent story about yourself. Today, when you go back to your routine, take out some time and do some research on scholarship. Start with INSEAD and do your research on scholarship, and you will be able to use whatever we are speaking here, whatever we're trying to tell you. So if you do this research today itself, go check the scholarships of INSEAD. You will get so much of insight from there, and look at how you're going to make your story. Sit down for an hour and just meditate and see and introspect. How were you as a child, as an adult, and then what all mistakes you made, what all are your weaknesses, where you went wrong, which was your happiest day, and when were you sad? Everything will come back. Believe me, it's such an interesting, and people keep coming back to me even when they get their jobs, and then they send me messages that today I was asked to do this thing, and preparing for the interview. So it's a beautiful journey. I would say enjoy it and do it, and you can enjoy only when you have time. Start early. That's a mantra for success. Start early, and you will be able to handle all the things with so much of I would say perfection. Right. So we'll move to the next slide. Yeah, so factors to consider before applying for any MBA round. Factors, again, I would say a whole lot of factors. Just sit down and see what all is important. Keep making note of folders in which you create folders for separate schools, and keep writing everything which is needed for that particular school. So factors to consider before applying for any round for that matter. Yes, why MBA? Why do you need an MBA? So when I talk to sometimes I talk to students who are among the toppers, but when I ask them why MBA, so they say I'm bored. I want to change, So I just want that somebody should say that he's from INSEAD, or he's from Oxford, or he's from Harvard, Wharton, Kellogg, wherever. Yes, but for that you need to work. So how do you work? You need to have a compelling reason for doing an MBA. Today you are standing here with your past credentials, and then you want to just see yourself, how you see yourself after 10 years or 20 years from now. Imagine yourself, what exactly do you want to do? And then see how this business school can help you. And then you will be able to create a compelling reason for doing an MBA. So I'm talking about your career vision, your goal, right? So also, are you at the right juncture to take this plunge is very, very important. Right juncture in the sense, sometimes people are ready to apply for. I will give you an example of an excellent profile where the guy did not have an experience at all, and he um, wanted to get a job which required a minimum 4 years of experience. So he just, gave me a call and said that how should I go about it? So I just told, you need to tell them that how will you be able to fit into that role. So prepared vision is very important. How do you see yourself? What you have done? Connect yourself with the organization. Similarly, connect yourself with the institute, with the business school. And yes, you can be there after 1 year also, 2 years also, but it is always, there are exceptions and every individual case is examined properly. So ideal to have 3 to 4 years of experience, but there are no hard and fast rules. Sometimes you apply with 6 years, 7 years, 10 years also. Sometimes you are ready to go ahead, exponential experiences, academically also and professionally also. In 1 year, you've been able to do something which people are not able to do in 5 years. Good enough. Talk about yourself, but then you should apply only when you know this is the best that you are given. You know yourself, so see how best you can give. So that is the right juncture, I would say. Then selected business schools resonate with your goals and aspirations. So if you want to be a consultant, so is this the school where you will get the right knowledge or not? You want to be in marketing, you want to be in leadership, you want to be in logistics, operations, whatever, your goal. So is the school giving you the right education, the right lift, the right impetus? Yes, then the school is right, but what have you done? So your strengths, your vision, your extracurricular activities, your NGO activities, or whatever, whosoever you are, will you fit into the school? Is the school ready to take you? So very important to see and then match yourself with the school. And then, yes, this is an important factor without which you cannot move ahead, as simple as that. And then, are you applying with your best, your Gmat, GRE? And do you have meaningful experience in terms of activities related to your academics and your professional work experience? Of course, we just spoke about the essays and recommendations and interviews. So are you applying with your best? We just spoke about, Titlani also was mentioning that she wrote her essays number of times. No? So I would give you a very important tip here that when you're writing your essays, sometimes it's not important to write your resume first, write your essays first, and then work on the resume. No? Minimize that and put it in the resume. But when you are writing your essays, it's important to look at yourself with each and every minute detail. Even a small little story sometimes comes into your mind. It could turn out to be an exponential leadership. I'll give you one example here. I had one student, I was just telling him that it's important to look at each and every aspect. So he used to stammer a lot. Initially when he was a child. So then he started working towards it. And when he was speaking to me, I said, but you don't stammer. So he said, I worked on it. So I said, this is excellent leadership. You worked on it. You've overcome a weakness. Talk about it, that as a child, I was this, and I worked on it. And today I can stand and address people like anything. So this is the leadership example. So quality of your essays. What are you writing in your essays is very important. And of course, you need somebody who is ready to endorse you for the qualities that you're talking. If you are a footballer and the recommender is recommending you for cricket, doesn't go anywhere. So you need to be careful about that. And interview is very important. Whatever you worked for your essays, for your recommendations, you need to squeeze everything and convey it in 20-25 minutes. So these are the factors to consider before you are applying for any MBA round. Although I will still say that each and every factor is important. Get into the details, get into minor details, you sweat in peace and you will never lose the war. No? So that's the whole idea behind, to work towards it. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Vinita. And I really love the analogy that you took where you can write a documentary or a commercial movie, because every time I'm having a conversation with an applicant, I'm always saying that you are the protagonist of your story. You
Absolutely.
can define however you want to direct it. And that goes for all of you. It could be a movie or a book that you're writing. You have to imagine yourself at the center of that particular narrative that you're selling to a business school. It's a pitch about you, for you. You have to make it impressive. Amazing, that one there. All right, before we jump on to talking about the process that which has to align with whatever you've just learned from Tetlanio and Vinita, just a couple of things, and we'll tackle questions soon after. If you're looking to work with MBA and beyond, because I know some of you are, you're in the dilemma of whether or not you should tackle your applications alongside your GMAT. One thing I'd like to say, 40% of the applicants that we work with, they are reattempting GMAT. And that's just a classic case, because it's okay for whatever score you have right now. You know you have to apply, and you have to apply this year. If you know that, you will get there. If you're interested in working with us, we're giving you this opportunity to send us the answers to these two questions based on whatever you've learned from both these amazing speakers tonight. One, why do you want to pursue an MBA at this stage in your career? I know some of you have questions around, I have 10 plus years of experience. Some of you have questions around, I have 2 years of experience, some of you. So it's about how prepared you are really for that, because we also want to be successful for you. We want to understand what clarity you have. Second, what do you think is your unique selling point or your differentiator for a business school? Please take a few hours, introspect, send us answers to these two questions along with your resume by tomorrow EOD, and we're going to thoroughly review it with our consultants to see if we can be successful together, and going to come back to you in 24 hours. Let me tell you, we're also offering an opportunity for 2-3 amazing applicants with great resumes and great stories and great introspection potential, discounts to come on board with us for round 2, not round 1, guys, because round 1 is very close. Consultants will have to go out of the way to help you. We can still tackle 1 to 2 applications maybe, but round 2, we have that kind of window. We know we can pull off a story that's successful. So that's there. Let's move on to our process quickly so that you know what it's going to be like working with MBA and beyond. Just a second. Okay, my screen is stuck. So if you're coming on board with us, we are going to put you through a phase that's called content gathering phase, something that Tetlanio emphasized on, where you need to introspect, and narrative that Vinita emphasized upon. You need to know your narrative. And that lays the foundation of a very strong application. Unless you're clear about whatever you want out of your own life, you cannot figure out what are the right schools, what should go in your essays, whether or not it's a safety school or it's a dream school or a realistic school. I can see a question parked over there for that. This is going to help you answer that question. Which school is going to be a safe school, dream school, or realistic school for you? So there's a phase called content gathering phase, which we've defined with the help of admissions directors, alums, students of some of the top schools. And these frameworks help you arrive easily at the questions that any business school may ask. Content gathering phase is going to be split into 3 sets. Set 1 is going to revolve around very high level questions around core and fundamentals of any business school, no matter what business school you're applying to. It does not matter, and we don't take that as a judgmental factor. If you are confused, it's okay to be confused because you're not clear yourself. So you're going to answer questions like, why do you need an MBA? Why should you be putting like hundreds of thousands of dollars in something that you're not even sure what you're going to get out of it? So understand what's the importance of your goals. How strongly do they relate to the evidences that you've built so far in your personal experience, in your professional experience? So we're going to like draw a thread which is going to connect all the dots strongly later, but here you're going to be brain dumping. This framework will have you answer 12 main questions and 40 sub questions. By the time you answer these questions, you will realize that slowly you're arriving at a point where you have much more clarity than what you have right now with your schools, the curriculum you want, the peer you want to go to school with, what do you really want to get out of an MBA. Then we move on to set 2. So set 1 was just you thinking in your own space, brain dumping about yourself, single-handed, one-dimensional perspective about you. Set 2 is going to be about we trying to understand you as from a third person perspective. Now, when I say third person perspective, we really need to negate any kind of self biases in your application, because business schools can really see that you're either trying to undersell yourself or oversell yourself. So like Vinita said, that you have to think about yourself in a movie, and I'm also talking about you being a protagonist, but at no point you can really oversell yourself. You have to be neutral at all points, because they want to make you a global business leader who has a very neutral perspective about the world and about my own self. And I am very self-aware. For that, we're going to need 3 really important people in your life. One personal connection, one professional connection, and the third one could be either of them. This is like one of the personal best aspects of content gathering that we do, because it gives you like a completely different perspective of what people see you as, like what kind of experiences you've had with them, stuck around with them. So we're going to ask them some questions around your personality, around your experiences with them, strengths, weaknesses, achievements, failures. And you will realize you get a lot of meat from here to build up on, especially for your recommendations later. Let me tell you how. So if you're already like very smart, and some of our applicants do this, you can already pick your recommenders to do this exercise for you. So some of you are struggling. How do you give pointers to your recommenders to talk about you? You can literally use this part of content gathering phase to talk about you just casually before you tell them that, hey, you're going to write my recommendation. Just ask for help. If you have got a good relation with your recommenders, they will really do some good justice to your application. So you will get to know yourself, what your recommenders are saying, and at no point in time your recommendation can be a repetition of your resume or your essay. It has to be a complementary piece of evidence that makes it stronger for you to portray your story in front of admissions committee. So this is set 2. Then we move on to set 3. This is, again, this is where I believe magic happens. So business schools are not just looking for your professional journeys, guys. I mean, they are looking at it because global business leader, it's all potential, but they have a lot to do, and they are very interested in knowing your personality. They are very interested in knowing, are you this perfect fit in the cohort, the overall personality of the business school. So if you will analyze well enough, you will notice that each business school has like 4 values on an average, and they have a certain set of personality. Like Tetlanyo is from INSEAD here. INSEAD is very international. The world knows it. Duke Fuqua talks, and it reeks of teamwork through and through, curriculum, whatever. So every school has some core values that they really value in you as a person. Unless you talk about your personality, there's no way for them to know this. So we're going to put you through a personality test. And based on the results of the test, we're going to define the traits that become the backbone of your application. And everything else that you've done in your life is going to hang around it as a supporting piece of evidence. Now, once you've done all of this, your consultant comes on board. Your consultant goes into a good 60 to 90 minutes call, goes through your story, knows everything that you are as a person, what your friends say about you, what your recommenders say about you, and prepares a branding document. I don't know if you guys know what like a business model canvas is, but I feel like our branding document is just like a business model canvas. It's your pitch to business schools. You take up your startup right in the face of investors and show them this one pager. This is your one pager for business schools. It's going to have your high level storyline, your theme, your strategy, and your direction for business schools. And trust me, for where you are today, and you don't know the schools, the dream schools, realistic and safe schools, this will be the moment when you'll be able to match the values of the business schools, know where your answers really lie, what your GMAT score is. Even if your GMAT is low, if your stories are strong enough, and a school like LBS can be parked as a safe school for somebody who has a 680 and she bagged 100% scholarship because her stories resonated so well with what the school was really looking for, and she had strong reasons to follow a certain curriculum that LBS had to offer. So a lot of factors go into there. Once you have your branding document, picking schools becomes much easier, not just for you, where consultants will recommend bunch of schools which are amazing for you to pick from. Some of them will be dreams, some will be realistic, and some will be safe. Once you've picked these schools, then we are going to start working, hustling on your essays, on your letters of recommendation, resume, on your interviews one by one. This journey for any US school, if I'll be honest, takes 25 to 30 days per application for the first one. Subsequently, you realize that you can like really play around with time and wrap it up in 20 days and then 15 days as you progress. But the first school will take time because the kind of introspection for your overall narrative that you need should not be compromised from our perspective, and even like from our speaker's perspective. So that's what the process is like. And if you're interested, again, you can send in your answers. We have some questions and we have 2 minutes. Most of them we tackled. I hope I could answer a few questions around letters of recommendation and dream and safety schools. There are a few questions, Vinita, Tetlanyo, please help answer them or jump in whenever you like. So the first one is, whom can I use as a personal connection for content gathering? Who can be a best candidate to better know about myself? I can give an example, actually. One of our candidates even asked their partner, because your partner, but they have to be non-judgmental when they are answering. So it can even be your boyfriend or your girlfriend, can be a boss, can be a very nice work colleague who you like to go out on coffee with, also knows about your work experiences. But we expect one professional person at least. So somebody who knows you professionally, and two can be your friends, anybody from your family, your sister, your brother, anybody you feel can chime in for you. We have one more question. Meanwhile, Tetlanyo, Vinita, do you want to chime in, maybe add any inputs for people, for our audience?
Yes, I just want to reiterate that it's important to understand yourself. So just you must know the 3 strengths that define you, or what is your USP. So then only you can understand yourself, and that is one strength which is going to take you ahead. So it's important to see what have been your top accomplishments in your complete life, which connect you with your career vision, and that vision only that business school can fulfill. Then you're moving in the right direction. So that's what I want to say. And be serious about everything. I mean, enjoy yourself. Don't take too much work, no doubt about it. But it's a lifetime experience. So enjoy your journey of writing essays, and don't set limit, and work on this. I really want to say that work on the content of the essay first, and then work on the word limit towards the end. Because word limit you can always manage towards the end, but shouldn't compromise on the content. This is a very, very important tip that I'm trying to give you. That sometimes, students tell me that I've just written it in 100 words because the essay asked 100 words only. So I have cut down this, that. So this doesn't work, because you presenting your complete self. You just either presenting your face or your, some other. So you need to present your complete self. So it's important to work on the content and then work on the word limit. So this is the tip which I want to give you.
Thanks for a great session. And I know we're 2 minutes, 3 minutes actually over time. Just tackling last question and we're closing this. Thanks everyone for joining us. And this is a very interesting question out there Gargi has asked, and I can totally relate to her. So for startup founders who could give a recommendation, B2C business, so the interaction with customers is not as close. Can be your co-founder as well, can be an investor, can be an advisor, can be somebody who's really guided you build this business where it is right now, can be a vendor, can be a client as well. So it's open. Whoever you feel can give strongest inputs for you, go and ask for that.
Somebody observed you directly and understands you and is ready to give you an excellent recommendation. I'll just add on.
Yeah. I just wanted to add something 10 seconds.
Go on,
just one is that I just want to assure everyone that going through this process, while it is a big investment in terms of effort and your energy, etc., it is worth it. And that's why I like the MBA and Beyond name, because the process is going to help you, first of all, even in your MBA. So like going through the Gmat and revising the math concepts is going to be helpful during the MBA, but then so is like the exercise of understanding yourself. And that introspection is going to continue during the MBA in a big way. You're going to understand yourself so much better, which will then also help you with your interviews for your post MBA roles. So this is just the beginning of the step, and it's really a life-changing step, and yeah, it's very worth it.
Yeah, from MBA and beyond, you will not have any kind of communication barrier. You just ask for a question and the answer is there, and people are ready to help you. And people are ready to help you at any extent, I would say. So that's one thing which I have.
Yeah, it's the community with you guys that we're building. So everybody is here to give back to the community, increase the intellectual average of business schools and help you. Like that's why it's MBA and beyond, because we really want you to achieve your goals. MBA is just a means to your goal, and right introspection is the key there. So thanks everyone for joining us, and thanks Tetlanyo, and it was a very insightful session. Thanks Vinita, great
Thanks,
insights.
It was good.
Have
Yeah.
a good night, good evening, good afternoon, wherever
Bye-bye.
you are. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.